Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. It has been so long since we've recorded.
I know. I think it's been like a month.
It has been, yeah. The past two episodes that have come out were pre-recorded in the prior month. And so,
Yeah, we were super ahead. And
yeah.
then we went on spring break and now we're here. But we're still ahead
Yeah.
of time. But,
Yeah. Like we're on top of it. Don't worry. Content ain't gonna stop. We're still gonna stick to that bi-weekly schedule. But before we even get into it, we do have a small favor to ask of y'all. We hope that you really enjoy the content, but we want your honest opinions, your honest feedback, and we would like to ask that y'all please review and rate us on the podcast streaming platform with which y'all are using, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, whatever it is. And for our listeners on YouTube, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below, like what you're thinking about the episode. Is there any sort of topic that we covered that maybe you want us to go more in depth with, or just something that you agree with or disagree? Doesn't matter. Just kind of create some engagement in that way. But yeah, I think it's a great way to get the podcast to reach more people is by having that rating. I think on Spotify we're rated 5 stars and on Apple Podcasts too, but that's with like 3 ratings.
Yeah.
So, we want to increase the numbers. We want to know what y'all think so that we can better gauge the content in the right direction. But yeah, other than that, glad to be back.
Me too. It feels so weird. And I feel like every time we update a certain part about our podcast, we get farther away from each other.
Oh yeah. So recently we got new boom arms for our microphones, because the ones that we were using, I mean, they weren't like cheap. They were kind of the mid-range in my opinion. They're about $30 each, and one of them just crapped out. And I know I had explained in a previous episode, I think it was maybe 28, maybe episode 30.
Well, it's been recent. I know that.
It was one of the more recent episodes. I explained how I had a rope tied to the boom arm to keep it down in the correct position for Marisabel to use. And we were running with that for like 5 episodes. And so now we have new ones that were more expensive, but hopefully will be worthwhile in the long run. And we are much further apart from each other now.
No, yeah. It was so weird. Like having that rope on the arm. I felt like I couldn't move it, or like if I did move, like it would break.
Yeah.
And so whenever you're like, look, now we can adjust it, I was going to adjust it right now. And I was like, I don't want to touch it. Like, I'm so scared. But these are newer, so it's okay.
Yeah, these are way newer, much nicer. I mean, even like the whole setup I got going on right now is way more organized than we had it. And so it feels good. The podcast is really coming along. I think we can see that from our general listenership. Like our statistics, we are almost to our first 1,000 downloads, which I am super hyped for. We'll be sure to announce that and give y'all all the praise and love that y'all deserve for getting us to that milestone.
I know, that's so exciting. Like 1,000, that is a lot of people.
Yeah, I am super excited. Like, just to think that we've had people tune in 1,000 times to the podcast.
Oh my gosh. And we have 2 people from like Russia, right?
Oh,
we started with 1 and now we have 2.
That's crazy. See, I don't know like how accurate that is, just because it's like, can somebody change the location on their phone and then listen? But then I'm also like, but our phones have built-in GPS, so I feel
like it would be like per account.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. I don't know. Anyways, it's crazy. We have 1 listener in Canada. Shout out to you. And then the majority are here in the United States, and the majority in the United States are Texas. I think we have 1 in California actually.
Love that.
And then a few in some other states, but yeah, no, it was crazy. We saw that and I was like, damn. And then now we're at 2, and I'm like, holy shit. He told his buddy.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, okay.
But wait, what were we talking about before this?
Like, what are we gonna talk about, or what were we talking about before?
Yeah, what were we talking about leading up to, like, damn, we got 2
Oh, we were
listeners
talking
in
about like
Russia.
upgrading.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
everything.
That's right. Yeah. Podcast is coming along. Slowly upgrading stuff here and there. We got some other big news that we're not going to get into yet until the details have been really ironed out, but I'm pretty excited
That's so funny.
to announce that.
Yeah, that is pretty exciting. But when you said that, that we're not gonna give too many details until like everything's figured out, it reminded me of like all the YouTubers that I watch, and like I hate to be that person, but I have this project that I can't talk about. And then every video they're just like, my hidden project, right? And everyone's like, just tell us what it is. That's just what I thought about.
No, it's pretty exciting stuff. I mean, it's not like a huge thing, but it's definitely a step forward, I think, for the podcast.
Well, I feel like it is a huge thing. Like when you look at it.
I guess you're right. Once we get the ball rolling, it'll for sure be something that, I don't know. It's just,
it's crazy.
It's
guys.
exciting
it's
stuff.
crazy.
I can't talk about it without revealing what it is. So, just stay tuned.
We've turned into those people.
Yeah, you'll know once we talk about it.
Yeah.
But to get into the meat and potatoes of the topic of this episode, which I think is something like a lot of the episode topics that we talk about come from a place of passion. Like we'll have these conversations in the car, or like we'll see something on Twitter or anything like that, and this is just one of those topics that we just got so passionate about in the car, and I'm like, we need to talk about that on the podcast. And it's about sort of the, what was it? I like deadass lost my train of thought, but it's in relation to the new Turning Red movie.
Yes.
Now, if y'all haven't seen it, it's a pretty good movie, honestly. Like, I feel like it's an unbiased opinion. It's a good movie, you know, like no hate towards it or anything, which is kind of what we're going to get into, like all the hate around it, and just kind of like what that says about like the depiction of women's hygiene in media and just in general day-to-day life, like in families, you know, even our own, like what we've seen. I don't know, just how untalked about it is and how taboo it's made out to be when it's like a normal occurrence. You know, it's just part of being human, or more specifically a woman. But, you know, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like something that people should be getting upset about, but that's exactly what people are getting upset about.
And it's like the littlest things too. Because I haven't seen the whole movie straight, but I did see, I think it was the middle part of it, because I was waiting for my food and like this restaurant was playing it in the background, so I was just like reading the subtitles and everything. And then I did watch this scene that people are mainly upset about, and it's like where like the mom thinks the girl got her period, and she's just like explaining, oh, I have ibuprofen, I have pads, and like explaining like it's okay, like your body's changing. And so when I watched it, right, initially when people were talking about it, I didn't really know what was happening. Like on Twitter, I thought it was like a person movie. Does that make sense? Not I'm sorry, I forgot what they called it.
That does not make sense.
No, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think.
Movie?
No, I didn't think it was a cartoon.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was like, you know, real life, like real people.
Okay. Yeah, not.
I forgot what it's called, but yeah, you didn't even let me finish
like,
my sentence. You said no, that doesn't make sense. Like, damn. Okay, let me explain.
Are you talking about live action?
Yes,
like you
yes.
Thought it was live. Okay.
Anyway, so that's why I thought, like, oh, like maybe they showed like something, right?
Yeah.
And then I watched it and I was like, girl, there's literally a cartoon, and the audience is little kids. They're not gonna do anything crazy and like show blood everywhere or something. Like, I thought it was like detailed, and it wasn't. So I personally don't understand why people are getting upset about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like mainly it's because like they just don't feel comfortable having that conversation. But then it brings up like, well, why are you not comfortable having that conversation? Because you're a whole adult. Like, you understand what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the two sides of it. Is parents getting upset at the fact that they showed it, and then kind of their ideology of like my kids are too young to see that sort of thing, right?
Well, that also is like, well, how young are they? You know, because
Yeah.
I learned about puberty and all of that in elementary school through my school. It wasn't like just people talking about it. Like, up until then, I hadn't heard about it, you know? And I was just like, oh, okay, like, that happens, right? My mom signed the permission slip, and we went and we watched a little clip about it 2 years in a row or something. But I learned about it when I was pretty young. So I'm like, well, how young are these kids? Because if they're like a baby, they don't even understand what's happening. So why are you getting upset about it?
Yeah. Yeah. See, I saw an interesting take about turning red from what is it? From a YouTuber that I watch. Man, I forgot his name. Oh, shit. It had like pig in it. I think it was like Bionic Pig. I know it's an odd name. Anyways, so he's a reaction. He like reacts to movies.
Okay.
And he gave his take on turning red. And it was basically like him saying that this sort of stuff is important to learn as a younger child, because they're literally the ones who are going to go through it. And I was like, wouldn't you rather them be prepared and understand what's happening to their body when it happens? Because I mean, it's a spontaneous event. I don't think your body tells you, oh, like, you're getting your period tonight and you're not gonna know it, you know?
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, wouldn't you be more comfortable as a parent knowing that they'll know to come to you in the event that that's happening, and not be freaking out, just kind of like, oh shit, it's happening, okay, let me go tell my mom or my dad, you know, whatever. And it was just kind of like the hate around it didn't make sense. And it was like, if you had a smaller kid and that's what your worry was about, well, if they're that little to the point where they can't really comprehend that, just lie to them. If they really are so curious about it, it's not gonna do any harm. I mean, my parents lied to me about stuff all the time when I was little. I always wanted to go to like McDonald's or Krispy Kreme. And I'd be like, hey, can we go? And they're like, it's closed. And I was like, damn, bro, they're always closed when I want to go. It's like, no, that was cap. That was so much. It's cap. But
That's
you know,
so funny.
it's not that hard, and you're not doing your child a disservice by lying to them in that way. Like, if you truly believe they're not ready for that. But I feel like the earlier the better. Like, you start introducing it with baby steps. That way, by the time it happens, it's no surprise to them.
Yeah, and it's not that big of a deal. It's not like traumatizing.
Yeah.
You know, because I knew about it, right? But I can't imagine not knowing that was going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And one day waking up and being like, why am I bleeding? Like, I would probably think I was dying or something. I'd probably freak out and just like start crying, because like, you don't know.
Yeah.
You really don't know until somebody tells you. That's just crazy. Like, thinking like one day I would have just woken up, because I got it when I was in middle school.
Okay.
Right. So I was in the 6th grade and I was still like pretty young.
It's straight out of elementary school.
Exactly. So it's like, I was still a child, you know, to an extent. So it's like, I probably would have, like, I don't know what would happen, but I'm glad that I knew, because if I didn't, it would have been like worse.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think it's just a testament to like an old way of thinking too. I think our generation is just so open about things. So we have a culture of being open, being honest about our feelings. And I think even our own parents' generation and their parents especially just didn't have that culture growing up. And so maybe there's parents in those generation of people in our parents' generation that are seeing this movie and are freaking out, because the concept of being open about stuff like that, personal hygiene and such, just wasn't a thing for them.
Yeah, they're just not used to it.
Yeah, so I understand from that point of view where they're coming from, but I don't think they should be shutting it down as hard. Like, I think they need to start to try to be open to it, you know, because it's just, I don't know, it's setting your kid up for failure. And I mean, it's not like I mean, who's to say that kid will then grow up and have kids and do the same thing? I think more often than not, like, depending on their experience, it'll prompt them to change, you know. like I know for us, what we've said, like in the future, whenever we have kids eventually, it'll be, we want to have an open culture in the house, culture of being able to talk to one another about things. And like if let's say we have daughters, like I don't want them to just go to you in the event that something's happening with them. Like I want them to feel comfortable coming to me as well, and I'll help them to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
Obviously you have firsthand experience with like feminine hygiene and stuff like that, so obviously like refer them to the expert, i.e. you. But I think it's something that needs to change, and I think it is changing.
Yeah.
But I just didn't, I don't know, it was, I watched Turning Red literally because I was bored. And it was like, when you make like a meal and you're like, let me throw something on before I eat. And I was like, yo, what's on? I'm like, what is that? Turning Red. I'm like, that looks interesting. Threw it on, watched it. I was like, that was a good ass movie. And it wasn't until after I saw the movie that I saw all the hate towards that scene, or
like just the movie in general.
Yeah, just the movie in general, which there's another part of the movie that I wanted to get into, but I'll kind of wait till the latter half of the episode because I want to focus more on like the hygiene, or the feminine hygiene, and even like the male hygiene, and just like how people don't really talk about it. Like dads with their kids, like it's kind of like an awkward conversation, which I don't think it really should be. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, my dad talked about stuff with me, and I do appreciate that, but it definitely was very awkward. And like he was awkward, so then it made me feel awkward, and it was really weird. Or even like exploring like my sexuality and stuff like that was, I don't know, that was a weird way to put it, but when I started to feel, hormonal, when I started to be attracted to girls and things like that, like we didn't really have a conversation about that. It just kind of became a weird issue for me, and I didn't know how to handle those emotions. You know what I mean? Or when hair started to develop everywhere. I'm a pretty hairy guy, and I think people know that. But, it was like I just didn't know how to deal with stuff. So I don't know, it goes both ways, but to be more specific on the women's side, I don't know, it feels like worse. Not worse, but like it's less talked about in media, and that's the problem.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like from what I've seen, women are more open about it now on like social media. They'll be like, damn, just got my period, or these cramps are killing me.
Yeah.
Or it's normal, like to just say that, and then a bunch of people like it because they're like, I'm on my period too. Right?
Yeah.
And my friends and I were actually pretty open about it too, and I don't see them a lot, the specific like ones I'm talking about, because they live at St. Mary's. I just see them like once or twice a week, right?
Yeah.
And I was walking with my friend to class, and she was like, I just got my period, dude. And like, like explaining everything. And I was like, I just got my period too, right? And it wasn't like weird.
Yeah.
But I remember growing up, like even in high school, it was like, oh, my stomach hurts, right? And they're like, why? It's like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's weird to see how that changed, even just for like us. And maybe it's just because we got more comfortable with it. Like we were still like growing up and trying to figure everything out.
Matured a lot more.
But I just thought that was interesting, And I feel like for guys, y'all don't live through that. You don't have that universal like experience, I guess.
Yeah, in that regard, I agree.
And so
that's where we're different for sure.
So I feel like men should learn about it. And if I remember correctly, because like I said, I learned about this in elementary school. Yeah. The guys did end up watching something similar too.
Yeah, so
but I never knew like what it was.
Yeah, I guess to get more into that experience, it was 5th grade. So you said you watched something in 4th grade too, right? Yeah. See, for me it was just 5th grade. And again with the whole permission slip thing, like I mean, I understand it, but it wasn't really graphic content. So that's why I'm kind of like, even in high school in health class, you needed to get a permission slip signed whenever sex education was covered, which I'm kind of like, I feel like this is good general knowledge that you should not be forbidding your kid from learning, because that's a whole nother can of worms. There's a lot of stuff to get into in this episode. I feel like I'm all over the place right now. Like I'm jumping around so much.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. I feel like I can't make my thoughts concise. But to get back to what I was saying, 5th grade, right? Got the permission slip signed. I was like, damn, like what am I about to, am I about to see like titties and ass? Like what's happening? And then
I'm sorry,
and
that's what your thought process
my mom was I don't know if it was exactly that thought, but I thought I was just gonna see a lot of naked people. And my mom was like, no, I don't think that's what it is. Like, I think you're just gonna learn about the changes that your body's about to be going through. Now, mind you, at this point, I was a pre-pubescent child. I went through puberty early. I was already growing hair, voice was getting deep, constantly cracking. You know, I was already going through a lot of these changes that were being depicted in this video. And so, I mean, shit, I started growing leg hair already by 5th grade. You know, I was really going through it already. Sweating like crazy, like in my armpits. Started wearing deodorant. Like, man, honestly, I don't remember when I started wearing deodorant, but I know my parents complained about my odor and they made me wear deodorant. But yeah, anyways, went into the video. Don't exactly remember what was covered. It was just kind of like they showed very vague silhouettes of humans, like a woman and a man, and they were like, these areas are gonna start growing hair. And then they showed like hair on the picture, like pop up, like it just popped up, like where the guys, like right above like where the penis was, like there was hair right there. I was like, okay, like I'm gonna grow hair there. That's crazy. And then the armpits, the chest, the legs, the arms, stuff like that for the guys. For the girls, the only 2 areas that showed hair growth was the vagina and then the armpits. And that was it. And I was like, damn, why did they like grow no hair, right? that was my thought, right? And then I remember there were guys, like volunteers. I don't think my dad, he was probably working. But there was guys there, like men, like some people's dads, kind of talking about their experience. Pretty awkward situation because I'm sure they felt uncomfortable talking. Like, I mean, they stepped up to it. Good on them. But if I remember correctly, it was a very weird situation. Like, y'all are going to go through changes. And I was like, okay. And then they did show something with girls. Like, not just that little picture, but they also explained that girls are going to go through stuff, but they didn't get into any detail.
Oh, okay.
Like absolutely no it was just like girls are going to go hair, but they're also going to go through some other stuff. Just so y'all know, but we're not going to tell you what it is. And I was like, okay. And that was it. That was like the extent. They didn't tell us about like what we learned in high school, like checking your balls and stuff like that for like testicular cancer and shit. Or they didn't tell you the extent to where hair may grow. Like nobody told me hair was going to grow on my butt. But here I am. There's a lot of problems associated with that, I'll tell you what. But so I wasn't fully prepared for all the changes that I was going through, but I understand like they didn't want to get into detail just because we were so young. But it's kind of like, I don't know, there's a lot of kids already going through those sorts of things by the time that video is shown. And then by the time you get into middle school, it's like there's a whole nother slew of things, like even like hormones, which I think in middle school, in middle school we also had a talk like that, but it was just the guys again. Like in none of these situations was it a co-ed like class except for the sex education, but not even that fully, because then there was a point in health class where we did split into girls and boys, and the boys talked about the testicular cancer and they brought out that fake pair of nuts, and then there was the women, which I'm assuming y'all talked about breast cancer or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, we did. And yeah. We I'm trying to remember.
Did they bring out fake pairs of boobs?
I think they did. I'm trying to remember. I remember we had to like look at not a diagram, but it was kind of like, it was a silhouette, I guess. Yeah. And you could like see like what had happened or like what could happen if you get breast cancer.
Yeah.
Like to the physical aspect of it. And then I think there was like a fake boob. And she was like, this is how you like check or something.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. Man, it's been a while. But I think that's what we went through. Yeah. But that's interesting that in middle school y'all didn't have co-ed, because when I learned about like sex and stuff, it was like the two groups, like the girls were in one gym and the guys were in the other gym during that class period, right?
Yeah.
But for this, they brought us all together and we all watched a video and stuff. And then so both
Interesting.
like the male coaches and the female coaches were there, and they were talking to us about it after we watched the video. I'm not gonna lie, that video was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to explain it, but they were so like they didn't. I don't know, these like actors. It was so funny. They were like, I chose to not have sex, but like they were talking to like the other person. Like
Yeah.
if I was talking to you like that, like, I do not want to have sex with you. Like
Oh,
that's
what
how you
the?
say
It's
something.
just hella robotic.
Yeah, so I was like I thought I was gonna laugh, and some people did, but I was like, "Is this a serious thing, guys? Like, let's calm down." But it was kind of funny, honestly.
Yeah.
They need to pick a better video. Like all the videos that I've watched
Yeah.
for school are so old.
They are.
I'm like, can we
super
update
old.
them, because
Yeah.
that makes it even funnier.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, shit, even the driver's education video was so old. Like, all of these videos are old. They need to update this. They need to make it look better because the video is always grainy as shit. And it's like, this looks like it's from the freaking 1980, bro. Like, let's get some updated shit in here. Oh, shit, man. No, yeah, those... I don't know. Those videos were all right. They didn't really get into detail, though, which I feel like is needed.
Well, I understand, like, for elementary school.
Yeah. No, elementary
Like,
school, yeah,
you're
I
just
get it.
introducing the idea, so I like that they do that. Because then, like, after elementary, we go into middle school, we learn about,
Yeah.
like, we learn about it again in a different way.
Uh-huh.
And then we go into high school, and then we have health class.
Yeah.
So it's introduced every, like, I don't know, every time we grow up.
Yeah, like elementary, middle, and then high school. And
What are those called? You have primary education. I guess it's just middle school and then high school.
yeah.
I thought it was something else, but anyways.
Nah, yeah. Really lost our train of thought there.
I'm sorry. I'm just laughing at, like, the video in my head
Uh-huh.
at the moment.
No,
It was just, like, it's so weird how they introduced it to us.
mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't like, okay, guys, we're going to go over this. It was kind of just like, they set us up for failure. Because they were like, don't laugh. Okay, this is a serious topic. And they started playing the video.
Say that, yeah.
And I'm like, well, now I want to.
I remember busting my ass in elementary. Like, that shit was so hilarious to me. I don't know why. I think it's just, like, the images that they were using and, like, what they were describing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're a little kid. You just think shit like that is funny.
Again, I feel like the robotic, like, narrator.
Yeah.
We need to get somebody else. We can't have a robot explaining to us what our body is going to be changing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. It's something that needs to be talked about more. And it's not even like the job of the schools to do that. It really is like more so on the parents. Like,
yeah, definitely.
parents need to step up and just be more comfortable talking with their kids about that. Creating a culture or an environment in their household that invites conversations like that. Because that's going to allow for your child to grow up and be comfortable, you know, expressing what they're feeling or the changes that they're going through. And not really battle it alone, you know, because it's, you know, I know you get to that pre-teenage or a teenager and you really feel like you are independent and like you know it all, but you know, the older you get, you look back and you realize like just how ignorant you were, like how little you really did know. And it's kind of like, I wish I would have opened up or like reached out sooner rather than later. And if I would have known more sooner, I think I would have, you know, about my body, about the things that I was feeling, about the things that I was doing that probably were not okay. You know, it's kind of like, it just, like, why do we think that, or why do you think, I guess I'm saying like, why do we, but I'm talking to you. So why do you think that in society or in media, talking about personal hygiene or the changes that our body goes through, especially women's, is so taboo?
Because I think over the time, especially like men, they have this idea of saying that, oh, like a period is gross.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, as that is continuously repeated, not only to like on social media,
Yeah.
but it's also repeated like in real life. So like you'll hear it like you're on your period, like even just the tone of your voice, like
Okay.
not like you, but like in general people, it kind of makes you feel secluded, and you get discouraged to ever really open up about what you're going through.
Yeah.
So like I said before, like it's a universal experience for girls,
Mm-hmm.
and we all know that at a certain age we go through it. Well, I won't say for all girls, because I know some women, they do not end up getting their period. But for the most part, you know, it's a universal experience. We all go through it. And even though we know that, we still aren't as open with each other unless, I guess, we're on our period.
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah, I guess unless we're on our period. Like, I don't really say, man, my boobs really hurt. I think I'm going to go on my period. Right? Like, to my friend. It's just like, if I'm on my period, I'm like, oh my God, like these cramps are killing me.
Yeah.
And you don't really use the word period.
Okay.
You use...
So you don't straight up just mention it.
Yeah. Not all the time unless you're comfortable with them.
Yeah.
Right? But you use like, it's my time of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So even just the word period is kind of like taboo to use.
You know, that makes sense. That actually makes me think about the documentary we watched, with unrelated to what we're talking about right now, but it was a documentary on Netflix. It was called, was it like Coastal Killer or something like that? Or like Murder by the Sea, some shit like that.
Yeah, and
Murder
it was
by
in
the
Spain.
Coast. Yes,
Murder by the Coast.
Yeah, it was in Spain, that one right there. And basically the murder happens and they narrowed it down to a suspect, which turns out at the end of the documentary it wasn't her. But they basically they used her being lesbian as a reason in court for why she had a cause for murder. Like, and it was the way that this other woman in the documentary explained it. She was it about, like, I forgot what she was an expert in, or like what her book was about that she wrote, but basically she was saying that like the media and the mass hysteria caused by the media of them constantly saying, like, you know, she did it, like she was the murderer, you know. She's a lesbian. Lesbians tend to be like really aggressive and angry if they're not completely out of the closet and stuff like that. And it's like, after the entire public constantly hears that, after every media outlet constantly spews that, like even the judge would hear that, like you're unconsciously going to be biased in that direction. So then that makes me think about how what you just said with like the media and like men especially constantly being like, oh, periods are gross and it's just something that like you shouldn't talk about openly. It's like constantly hearing that, like even girls probably start to believe it, like women themselves. Like I know, like even like my grandma or stuff like that, you know, like they kind of have it in their head like that's not something that you talk about, like that is like your personal thing to deal with, you know.
That's interesting, because remember when we were talking about, I forget what it's called, but at a certain age women have to go, and I think it's a mammogram.
Yeah, for the mammograms, the boobs, and the pap smears,
so it's a pap smear.
Yeah.
Right? And your grandma didn't want to tell you what it was. You know? And I just thought that was interesting, because my mom told me like what it was. I mean, she is your grandma, right? But even your mom was like, no, like look it up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a different vibe, which, I mean, I get it. I'm not a woman.
No,
it's not anything that like immediately concerns me, but you know, in the future, like you're gonna have to get that, and I want you to be open about it and like talk to me about it. And I'm not gonna be disgusted by it. I mean, we're pretty open already about the things that you go through and the things that I go through.
No, yeah, but I feel like going back to like that situation or that event, it just shows that women are more comfortable talking in like their group.
Yeah.
Because I was with like your mom and your grandma and your tia when they were all talking about it, and it was comfortable.
Yeah.
But you came and you asked.
As soon as I walked in, it was like the vibe changed.
Yeah, and that kind of just shows that even women don't
Yeah.
want to be open with men about it because they're afraid, or just have like this idea that men shouldn't know about it
Yeah.
because it's something that women go through.
Or maybe it's that subconscious, not like fear, but like they just don't want like the overreaction to it. You know what I mean?
No, I get
I
that.
think a lot of guys tend to like they get like that. I'm like, okay, like
It's literally a human or like a woman experience. Like our bodies are gonna go through that, and if you want
it's
to
a
be
biological change.
yeah, and if you want to be with a woman, like you want to marry her,
Yeah.
deal with it. Like you're gonna have to eventually. There's no
Yeah.
reason to make her feel bad about it.
I feel like that might like the term deal with it, like that's not even like you shouldn't just be dealing with it. You should be embracing it and learning about it.
Well, yeah,
That
I
way,
get that.
yeah, no, I get what you mean though. Like if you're at the point right now where it's just like disgusting to you, then yes, learn to deal with it, but then also move past just dealing with it and learn about it, you know,
Yeah, definitely.
and be there for your significant other or for your friends, you know, not necessarily just like a marital relationship where you should learn about it. Like if you're a single guy out there, like you don't have a girlfriend, you don't have a wife or anything like that, you should learn about it, you know, just that way you're aware, that way you don't have this bias in your head or this depiction of a period in your head or like women's hygiene like as being gross, because it's not. It's just a normal part of everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
No, but that's crazy. I didn't know that y'all were like just talking about it openly until I walked in.
Well, it wasn't like super open,
Yeah.
right? But it was like, oh, I need to get a pap smear.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, it's horrible. And like explaining, right, that it's not, nobody likes it, right?
Yeah.
And after like I learned what it was from my mom and stuff, like, I'm not gonna like that either, you know? So I understand. And they were kind of like joking about it and stuff and explaining like that they had been or they had to go, or, you know, the first time they were shocked.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not ready for that. No way. But yeah, when you came in, it was kind of like, no, Julian, you look it up, okay? We're not telling you.
Yeah.
And I mean, they didn't like tell me either, like what it was.
Yeah.
They asked though, like if I knew what it was, and I was like, yeah.
Okay.
So maybe that's why they didn't feel the need to explain it to me.
That could have been it.
But I don't know, you know.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Holy man, we're already 37 minutes into the podcast. Holy buckets.
That is crazy. We've been talking about like one thing too.
I know. Okay. It's in relation to what we were talking about, but the second thing that I wanted to get to. Another complaint about that Turning Red movie was that it portrayed the idea of like disobeying your parents, or like the idea that rebellious behavior is okay, you know?
Yeah, no, I did not get that.
Nah, I didn't get that at all. It's so in the movie, like, what's her name? Mei and her friends are like in 8th grade or something like that. They're 13, 14 years old, something like that. And they're literally like early teenagers, you know, they're young adults. They're developing both physically, as we covered previously, but also mentally. You know, they're becoming their own person. And at the beginning of the movie, Mei was very attached to her mother, and that was clearly expressed in the visuals, as well as what Mei herself was saying. How, like, you know, my mom's my best friend. I'm always with her. I agree with her. I do whatever she says. Like, if my parents are happy, I'm happy. You know? And throughout the movie, she not only goes through those physical changes, which I think are alluding to, you know, a period and like puberty and stuff, but she's also going through mental changes. She's, you know, wanting to branch away from her family, hang out with her friends more. She wants to go to things like the concert, which in the movie is like a big part of the plot. And I don't think it's showing that rebellious activity is okay. It's just showing like that growing up, part of growing up is kind of developing your own personality. Like, you're not an extension of your parents anymore. You're becoming your own person. You know, you're becoming independent. not completely independent, you know, but it's you're getting to that point in your life.
No, yeah. And from what I've watched, right? I
Yeah.
feel like the movie just wanted to show like children what can happen or what like possibly will happen as
Yeah.
they grow up, and know that that's just real life. Like you're not always going to be at the hip of your mom,
Yeah.
you know? Cuz when
Yeah.
I was little, I feel like I was always at the hip of my mom,
Mhm.
you know? I just like being around her and stuff. And then eventually like it happened, like I was like, oh, I'm gonna hang out with my friends, and now
Yeah.
like I see my parents a lot less than I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
And that's just part of getting older, and like you said, creating your own personality, finding people that you enjoy hanging out with,
Yeah.
creating new experiences for yourself, because your parents have already lived their life.
Yeah.
You know, it's time for you to live yours. It's not saying that it's okay to totally like disregard your parents and, you know, like tell them off or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
just showing that you're going to be you
Uh-huh.
eventually, and that's okay. Like it's nothing to freak out about, because I remember when I first started hanging out with my friends, or we started hanging out more, and I didn't see my family a lot, especially like my parents and my grandparents.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm such a horrible daughter. Like I need to start hanging out with them more. Like what am I doing? Right? But then my dad was like, no, like me and your mom lived our lives. It's time for you to live your life. Like that's okay. We understand that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just opening that idea to the children. And it's not like showing, you know, those kids cussing at their parents or like being rude to them. It's just
Yeah.
showing that they're eventually going to branch away from you.
Yeah.
And
No.
maybe that's why parents are scared, because they don't want their kids to branch away from them.
Exactly. I think it's like the concept of helicopter parenting, just constantly monitoring your kid or guiding them in a direction that you want rather than trying to help them go in a direction that they want. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's two very different things. And I think that's, I'm not going to get into detail, but my dad and I did kind of get into it at one point when I don't remember how old I was, but it was a ways back. And I, that was entirely because it really, the environment that was created, or I guess the relationship that was created between him and I, was a relationship of, I was quiet, he would tell me, what to do. Or like if I was trying to change something about my life, it was always, oh, I'm selfish, or I'm not thinking about the family. And it was kind of like, bro, what? Like, I don't want to do this anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like, it was never anything big too. It was like when I wanted to leave Boy Scouts, it was a pretty big deal for him and not me. I was like, I ran its course. I finished it out. Like he always said, he's like, never quit in the middle of something. Finish it out if you made a commitment. And I was like, all right, well, been in this thing for 4 years. I'm ready to stop, like I'm not enjoying it. Or the same thing with football. When I wanted to leave, it was kind of a big deal, which I didn't understand why. Cause it's like, could you not see that I wasn't enjoying it? Like that I wasn't really giving it my all. And it wasn't a problem with me, like, oh, like you just need, it was like, no, like I don't like football. I don't like playing sports. It's just not something that I enjoy. I enjoy the physical activity. I enjoy
Mm-hmm.
working out, really pushing myself in that regard. But the actual idea of playing the sport, not really into it, never have been. And I don't know, like maybe it was like like a, it's like a negative thing for like a guy to not like sports or even like playing them.
Maybe.
And so maybe he was seeing that and was getting upset. But it was also like, whoops, shit, I dropped my glass bottle that we're drinking sparkling water. It's empty though. It's fine. I'm just going to kick it off to the side here. But so my parents were never really helicopter parents. They've always been pretty lenient. But I think in some regards, they were pushing more of themselves onto me rather than trying to help me find myself. So now I feel like at this stage of my life, I'm 20 right now, about to turn 21, like less than half a year. And I feel like only now am I finally figuring out what I want to do with my life, what I truly enjoy, like doing on my free time. Like I think it's more recently than ever that I found that I have a passion for like technology, like the technology industry. Like I enjoy reading up on it. It was only recently that I started to really get into that, or now I'm trying out a lot of new hobbies that I didn't really have time for because I was taking up things that my family wanted me to do rather than taking up things that I wanted to do. So now I feel like I'm doing so much like for myself that it just feels weird. I'm kind of flying through different hobbies. Like I got really into woodworking for a bit, but honestly that hobby it is dead.
Well, you almost cut your finger off.
I did. That also did almost happen. But like, I mean, it's fun, but it's not something that I want to do all the time.
Yeah.
But it was cool to do. I definitely do want to like get back into it, like in a minor sense, but not in like I want to make a shop and all that. Like I got to that point where I was like, oh, our future house, we're going to have a wood shop. And I'm like, no. Like we'll have a basic amount of tools to maybe do some DIYs every now and then, but nothing crazy.
I'm thinking back of recently I got this little candle holder.
Yeah.
And it was made out of wood. And
yeah.
he was like, oh, this looks really easy to make.
I say that about everything.
And he was supposed to make me a candle holder.
I was.
And he was like, okay, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And it was always like tomorrow, next week. And I was like, it's okay.
Like 3 months later.
Yeah. And so I bought one. But
yeah.
He was like, I can make this. And I was like, it's okay. I know you can.
My pride was getting in the way. Yeah, but not to dwell on that too much because I'm not very upset about it anymore. Like I just kind of look back on it and I realized that that's what was happening.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like getting back to the idea of the movie is like, Meme's mom was kind of pushing herself onto Meme, like pushing her idea of what would be good for Meme rather than trying to help Meme figure out what was good for herself, you know?
Yeah.
And that kind of ties into like what we were talking about before with like the personal hygiene. Like, even though you find things gross or like you think that that's not something that should be talked about, like, listen to your kid. Like maybe that they want to talk about it. Maybe they are curious about it. Like it's, kids aren't really supposed to be, I think when they're growing up, they are an extension of yourself. But it's kind of like once they get to like 5 years old and they can comprehend things, like they're becoming their own person at that point. They are a human being who is capable of conscious thought that is different than your own.
Yeah. That's so cute.
So it's like, like start treating your kid like they're their own person rather than they're like a mini you and should be exactly like you, or like, you should lead your kid in a direction that is favorable to you rather than to themselves.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like, you said 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
So like, I was thinking of like when I was 5 and started like making your own friends and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we are really starting to live our own life. And that's so interesting because we're so young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes me think about too, like, how parents will set up their kids on play dates, like with their friends' kids.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing that happened. Like in the Navy, the friends that I had growing up, we were friends more so by
like your parents?
By force or by parents. Yeah, I don't want to say by force. Like we were good friends, but it's like, I've seen them not recently, but I mean within the past 5 years I've seen both of them. And I mean, few words were said between us. It was like the friendship, the general respect towards each other and the acknowledgement that we were really good friends at one point was there. But that same general reciprocation of like, damn, you're my best friend was gone. It was gone, and that doesn't make me sad, but it's just kind of like an understanding of like, we're our own people now. We are completely different than we were back then. And we have different interests now. I don't know. It's crazy stuff. Just like now I'm at this point where I'm like, What else do I talk about? I feel like I got it all. No, I didn't get it all out there, but
You're just like, you keep bringing up more things. So like I'm thinking,
yeah,
like that's so crazy about play dates. Like my grandma, she met this one lady at my elementary school, right?
yeah,
When she was
yeah.
gonna pick me up,
Hmm.
and then I started hanging out with that lady's kids. And I was always like, oh, they're my best friends, right? But
Hmm.
then my grandma passed away and they moved and stuff. And
Yeah.
so I don't even have them like on social media anymore because I made a new account. I
Oh
just
yeah.
completely like forgot, like, that we were friends.
Uh huh.
And that's crazy because for a while I was like, oh, like we're really close, right? We're going
Yeah.
to be best friends forever. And it's like, no, like you grow up and you just start to change. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would be friends with them anymore. Like, I don't have like any like bad experiences or bad thoughts like towards them, right?
Yeah.
It's just like our personalities are so different now.
No, yeah, I agree. Like the friends that you make, I think in high school and college, like those are really the ones probably that will be more long term than anything. Honestly, and I'm talking close friends, not like general.
No, yeah, yeah.
But like in elementary and middle school, probably like close friends I had in those grades, we don't keep in contact anymore. Especially elementary because I moved around a lot. I don't even know where
Mm-hmm.
some of them are anymore. But um in high school, yeah, generally my close friends there I'm still good friends with. And even now in college, like I'm making really good friends with not my classmates. I have a very basic level of friendship with like a handful of classmates. And that's only this year or this semester. But at my job, I do work at the recreation center at UTSA. I should stop by, say hi. Um,
Just
but
on your shift.
yeah,
Just
like
keep
my
running to say hi.
coworkers, especially my supervisors, like I've made pretty good friends with, and I actually really enjoy talking with
Yeah.
them, And so, I don't know, different vibe, just, and like disclaimer, after all this has been said, we are in no way saying like you should raise your kids in a certain way or you should
Oh,
have
yeah.
a opinion
Like
towards
us.
what was that?
I was just going to say, like, an opinion like us. Like, it's
Yeah,
okay to
yeah.
have, like, different ideas of how you want to raise your kids.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just we're just ranting, just talking about something that came from passion. We didn't get like upset. We were just like, damn, like this
That's
is
a different way of thinking about it.
yeah. And so like we're just trying to explain our point of view on it and like what we think about it and us growing up. Like now we're like in our early 20s or like the earliest 20 possible. We're 20. Or you're 19, but I mean you're practically there.
Oh my gosh. Like,
You're practically
I'm a
there.
few months away. There's
You
no
are. You're
need
almost
to
there.
call me out like that.
But like we're at a stage in life where we can look back on things and be like, maybe like what can we do differently when we get to that point in life where now we're raising kids.
Yeah, and that's not to say that, oh, we're going to be perfect, because
No,
no
absolutely
parent is
not.
ever going to be perfect.
Yeah.
We're learning with the child,
Mm-hmm.
just as the child is learning how to live their life.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just things that we want to do. And that's not even saying that all of these things are going to happen. Like, who knows? We could probably also come off as awkward when we're talking to our kids about, like, how their body's going to change. And I'm sure to an extent it probably will come off a little awkward because it's a new experience for everybody. But I think it's just good to, like, for us to have those ideas and kind of, like, think back on what we felt we needed to kind of get our full potential.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of, like, set our kids up for success in that sense.
Nah, for sure. I feel like we covered a lot. No, honestly, I feel like we didn't cover.
We didn't cover a lot. We covered, I don't know, we went into detail.
Yeah, if I feel like we've only been talking for 10 minutes, we're almost at an hour right now.
That is crazy.
I feel like this is a good place to close it out.
No, definitely. Definitely.
I think we'll get back to a lot of the things that we touched on. Or even get into some things that we, didn't have the time to get into detail about.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a whole other episode.
Yeah, definitely. we'll touch base on a lot of some more things in relation to this in another episode. But before we close it out, I want to ask again, please, take the minuscule amount of time that it does to leave a rating on the podcast, a review, honest review, and let us know what you think. Do you enjoy the content? Do you not enjoy the content? Things that you would maybe want done differently during the podcast. We'll take things into consideration and contemplate.
Definitely.
And then, listeners on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, do all that jazz. Hopefully we'll get around to vlogging like we've been saying we're going to doing.
That's just us getting out of our comfort zone. Yeah,
we'll see. But thank y'all for listening. I'm trying, man, it's been so long since we record. I'm trying to remember what is like the the flow of the end of an episode. Yes, so also follow us on our socials at Live with JM Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And yeah, damn. Anything else to add?
Nah, I hope y'all guys enjoyed this episode and like insight into what we thought about women's hygiene and just hygiene overall, and having, open conversations.
Yeah.
Which I think are important.
That's exactly what the show is. Just an open conversation between the two of us,
Yeah.
Yeah. We hope you enjoyed. I'm excited for next week or the week after next episode as well. So, be sure to stay tuned. Every other Friday, new episodes come out.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.